All right, so now in the midst of this tour, there's the infamous Pueblo riot. What are your memories of that night in Pueblo?
Basically, okay, it was it was a small town near Pueblo, and it was hundreds of people come from miles around, and we were the traveling circus. We were the only show in town, and they just wanted to get drunk and heckle wrestlers, and and there was this one guy. I swear to God, he was shaped like a pear, and he was just heckling the shit out of everybody. He's like, screw you, you faggot, da, 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 you little faggot, I'll kick your ass. Everybody's getting nailed. And Richie and Alla were like, we don't want to go out there with these lunatics, because the whole crowd was rowdy. They were throwing stuff, and they threw a chair. When they went out, Richie and Abdul went out to have their match. Abdul, by the way, is from England, and he's like... He has a whole gimmick, but he's from England. He's very well educated, and he's playing this Middle Eastern guy, and it was hilarious. We were backstage getting more and more nervous because the crowd's getting more and more unruly, and the security guards were probably related to the people there, for crying out loud. So we had no security, and Richie and Alla went out, and the promoter, not long story. That guy's funny. He was into S&M. He was a freak. So he goes out, though, dressed as Allah's interpreter from the Middle East with a turban and everything. And he's like a guy from New Jersey, meanwhile. And so, of course, he, no offense to people from New Jersey, I'm just saying. He went out there, and a mark threw like a chair in the ring, threw it at Richie or Abdul or something, because Abdul was anti-American, quote unquote. And he threw a chair at these guys, and they were like, screw this. They took it home, 1, 2, 3, got the hell out of there, and the pear-man-shaped guy, he's shaped like a pear, started yelling at, the promoter's name was Mark, I believe, the interpreter from the Middle East.
I think it was Mick.
Mick, okay, yes, right, okay, so he started yelling at him, and the promoter turns around and was just kind of eyeing the guy, and the guy lunges at him and starts trying to kick his ass, and, the promoter grabbed him, pulled him in the back, and everyone started putting the boots to this pear-shaped guy because he was such an asshole. We started kicking the shit out of him. Meanwhile, the security guard comes running through and looking around, and we can hear the crowd coming. People are coming out of their seats. And remember the wide red line I was talking about? The curtain that separates the chaos from outside? It separates that from the security within the confines of the locker room. Well, that was about to be torn down. So people are getting there. We're all the boys and Shauna and her opponent. We're getting our gear and packing up. We're getting the hell out of Dodge. And the fans start streaming in, and everyone was kind of confused, like as to what was going on. You had the pear-shaped guy on the ground going, "Oh, no more!" And you had, I forget who was kicking the shit out of him. But and people didn't seem to know if this was part of the show or not. Still, we still had that veiled, that kind of immunity of like, is this part of the show or what are we? And all the fans like, what are we doing back here? And it was chaos. And Sean and I were the last ones out. I opened the door for let's get the hell out of here, And so Sean and I drove off into the desert that night, and we had a good moment. No sex or anything, but it was just a good moment. It was a bonding moment, and. It was fun. Even that was fun. Looking back, it was wild. It was a crazy night. So that was the riot, and then things changed even more than that. Actually, then my career took another turn. I'm sure you know about that one.
Yeah. So after that tour, you actually went to work in the Southern Wrestling Association. Yeah. Do you have any stories from that?
Yes. Billy the Prince Rampart ran that territory. He was hugely popular down there. It was cool territory. BJ and I went there together. We got tryouts, and I became the Wandering Wild Man. And I must have been nuts because I was sleeping in my car. We were sleeping in a car, BJ and I, and we had no money. I mean, we were getting paid nothing. I mean, nominal sum, but it was hard. It was a hell of a time. I remember back down there when I got my own car. BJ and I were in his car. Then I bought my own car, a clunker, and I referred to that as getting my own apartment. And we would drive 50 miles. We would drive 50, 60 miles. One day make a town, drive 80 miles that night, make a town. And I think it was it was Hayweeds Duncan told me. We were lacing up our boots in the locker room one day, and he looked over at me and. You know, I was like, just think, wild man. One day you can tell your psychiatrist you drove 100 miles and worked your ass off for 20 minutes, get the shit knocked out of you, all for $40 a night. And I was like, yeah, that'll be a good story for my psychiatrist if I live that long, if I survive this crazy life. But I did.
So you mentioned the gimmick, the Wild Man.
Yeah,
Can you describe a little bit of how that gimmick, how your gimmick changed as far as appearance wise?
Yeah, I got an orange mohawk. I shaved off my sides, spiked everything up into a mohawk, dyed it orange, and I remember BJ going, "My God, you're nuts, or something." It was Rampart said, "My God," he loved it. Prince loved it. He was like, "Yeah, you look like a wild man." Yeah, he loved anything that went with the gimmick. And BJ was like, "Yeah, you must be nuts. Anyone would be nuts to have a haircut like that." And I was doing massive amounts of steroids, and I was very aggressive. And I was a heel, so the fans hated me, and I hated them right back. And I would snarl at people. I mean, I wasn't. Looking back again, this is I'm not too proud of my behavior back then to some of the fans. I would scream at people and snarl at people, and even if a little, like in the crowd, if a little kid was looking, I'd be like, "Rawr," and like I said, I'm looking back, I'm not altogether too proud of it, but that was my gimmick at the time, and I was living it.
So in the Southern Wrestling Association, a lot of it basically centered around Memphis, Tennessee.
Yes, Memphis.
What was the party scene like out there in Memphis?
Oh, we just went to church every Sunday and just sat by the fire and knit, and then it was all right. It was out of control. It was wild. We finally were making enough money. We got an apartment. BJ and I got an apartment at Tower 99. It was a place, it was like a complex where a lot of the boys lived. And we would have parties there, after show parties, that whatever you wanted, you could have. You want alcohol, pot, pills, speed, rats, painkillers, I mean, all kinds of pills. But, a lot of the groupies, what have you, I mean, they seemed they were young, they were a little lost. Oh, and of course, Billy Rampart, his only advice was check the IDs at the door to make sure they were 18. I don't know if he had some trouble in his past. I think he got nailed with an underage girl or two. But he's like, just make sure they're 18, brother. That's all. But they were still, even if they were 18 or 19 or 20 or 20, they were still young. I mean, I was young too. I was just in my 20s, I think, at the time. But, I don't know, it just seemed kind of like a lost... there were a lot of lost people there. I remember one night I thought I was dying. I had taken so many pills and just drank, and I called Shauna. This was another step kind of in our relationship. And she talked me down. She reassured me. She goes, yeah, she had been in Memphis. She left. She knew what the partying scene was like. And she's like, she gave me good advice, and she talked me down, and she really, like I said, that was kind of another level. It took our relationship to another level. She helped me out a lot in those days. I kind of called her when I needed sanity. When Wild Man needed sanity, called John.